Okay. Good morning, everyone. We are about to start this workshop, and I want to introduce myself. My name is Sylvia Perez, and I'm the Family Engagement Liaison. I work for Duncanville ISD, and I serve three schools: Alexander, Hastings, and Bill Hart.
Hola, buenos días a todos, bienvenidos. Soy su enlace de compromiso familiar y quisiera introducir mi persona. Mi nombre es Silvia Pérez y sirvo a las escuelas de Alexander, Billhurst y Hastings.
And also, I want to introduce Ms. Lonka Serrano. She's a Family Engagement Liaison, and she will be helping me with translating.
Y esta mañana también nos acompaña pues esta servidora, quien va a estar en la parte de la traducción con ustedes.
Thank you. And I also want to, we having a special guest today at the end of this presentation, sharing how to make positive choices for financially. His name is Mr. Marco Camacho. Welcome, Mr. Marco.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Sylvia.
Thank you. So let's start with making positive choices with START.
Y antes de continuar, quisiéramos también de igual manera presentar a un invitado especial que tenemos esta mañana, al señor Marcos Camacho, que le damos la bienvenida por acompañarnos, que nos va a estar dando unos tips acerca de cómo tomar decisiones financieras adecuadas. Vamos a comenzar nuestro taller.
So this presentation focuses on how gain insight into what shapes children's decision and offering parent tips to help guide their children towards positive decisions making. This presentation is based on a common decision making model, not in the START assessments related.
Y ahora para continuar con nuestro taller de tomando decisiones positivas con STAR, y quisiéramos compartir con ustedes que esta presentación se enfoca en obtener la información sobre lo que da forma a las decisiones de los niños y ofrecer a los padres de igual manera consejos para ayudar a guiar a sus hijos hacia la toma de decisiones positivas. STAR en esta presentación se basa en un modelo común de toma de decisiones. No está relacionado ni dirigido con las pruebas del STAR.
Thank you. So, like I said, I'm the Family Engagement Liaison for Alexander, Bill Hart, and Hastings.
Y como ya les mencioné anteriormente, soy su enlace de compromiso familiar y también sirvo a la escuela de Alexander y de igual manera a Bill Hart y a Hastings.
So this is some of the learning outcomes. We're going to be aware of the influence of children's decision-making process.
Y también en esta mañana vamos a cubrir los siguientes resultados de aprendizaje. Tomar conciencia de las influencias en los procesos de la toma de decisiones de los niños.
We're going to identify steps for decision making.
Identificar los pasos para la toma de decisiones en los niños.
And we are I'm sorry. I was trying to move this. And we're going to develop skills for encouraging responsible decisions making in children.
Y también a desarrollar habilidades para alentar la toma de decisiones responsables en los niños.
So our next is we're going to watch a quick video. And how do you as a parent capture your children's attention to influence decisions? Something to think about it, and we'll watch the video.
Y vamos a mirar un video corto y vamos a reflexionar acerca del video de cómo nosotros como padres capturamos la atención de la influencia en la toma de decisiones de nuestros niños.
This is a very common problem of kids not listening to their parents when their friends are around, their peers are around, and it's an early indication, actually, that a child is beginning to replace parents with peers. This is what I call peer orientation, and it's a growing and escalating phenomenon in our world today. It's so common, in fact, that we don't realize its insidiousness, that it is actually what was never intended, or nature never intended it. When peers matter more than parents, when when a child takes his cues from his peers for how to act, for how to be, for how to think, for what's important. And when a child starts orbiting around his peers, that's the problem. The symptom is they won't listen to us. But we only attend to the person that we're attached to, and only when those attachment instincts are engaged. So this suggests not a behavioral problem, but a relationship problem. And so the wise parent will say, oh my goodness, I'm losing my child when they're with his peers. I need to do something about this to slow down the interaction, which we all need to do, to slow down the interaction, not to court the competition, and not to encourage it, and to strengthen the relationship. And there's also another thing that's very important with attention, is even if your child has a good relationship with you, you've got to be able to collect the eyes. You've got to be able to collect the attention before you have to engage them, before you interact. It's very simple. It's the essence of the greeting ritual. You get their eyes, you get a smile, you get a nod, and you make sure you get all of those things, and so you work for this. And then when you have it, you ask them to put away their clothes. You start interacting with them in ways to influence them and so on. Many parents simply operate out of their role, and they think, well, I can tell the child what to do simply because I'm dad or stepdad or mom or whatever it is, or teacher. That's not true. You have to actually collect before you direct. That little mantra can absolutely transform a home.
Well, this was a great video about Dr. Gordon Nefal, psychologist. Sometimes our children pay more attention to their friends or anyone else except for us as a parent, and they can easily be influenced by them. So that's when we have to step in as a parent and guide them to make better decisions. And I feel like here is the communication is the key. We have to know how to ask, have to tell them what is better for them. What do you think, Ms. Serrano?
I think as a parent, that's key to keep that communication with your child because they're always going to have influence with their peers, but based on the communication that they have with you is what is going to be that key when they're going to make that decision.
Yes, and I think the hardest part is when they are teenagers, they going through their high school, and that's when it's always a risk. Do you want to add something, Ms. Chevelle?
Sure, thank you. I think it's important for a parent, like he was saying, if we're trying to help influence their decisions and talk to them, we have to know how to get their attention first, or else everything that we suggest and that we say is going in one ear and out the other. So we really have to get their sincere attention and then, kind of ask them questions and help them process some decisions.
Yes, that's true. Do you want to add something, Ms. Camacho?
No, I think you guys said it all. I mean, I think, as you guys said, the most important thing is getting the attention of the child. Because if you don't have their attention, they're not going to listen to anything you say, like Michelle Wall said. It's just going to go in one ear and go out the other. But when you grasp their attention, you say something that's going to interest them, they're going to listen, and they're going to use your advice.
Yes, yeah, so we all agree, especially when we have kids going through that special age. Yeah, so what else do you think influence children's decision making?
Este fue un gran video sobre el psicólogo Dr. Gordon. A veces nuestros hijos prestan más atención a sus amigos o cualquier persona, excepto a nosotros como padres, a quienes pueden influenciar fácilmente por ellos. Y quisiéramos hacer esta pregunta. ¿Qué más crees que influye en la toma de decisiones de los niños?
So, other things keeps getting in the way. What do you think influence children's decision making? So let's reflect about this. What are the external influence they feel affect their children's decision making?
Ahora vamos a reflexionar en estas preguntas. ¿Cuáles son esas influencias externas que sienten que afectan la toma de decisiones de sus hijos? We have an answer on the chat, Ms. Perez.
Okay.
Okay. Social media is one of the.
Yes, social media, probably BFFs, best friends, that they listen a lot to them because, I mean, don't take me wrong, I don't want to say every friend is bad or anything, but sometimes the decision they make is not the same decision that they have to make too. So I feel like friends. What do you think, Ms. Serrano?
We have another answer on the chat, Ms. Perez, and it say YouTube, people, and interactions.
Yes, I feel like YouTube is kind of a risk. You
Those-
always learn everything in YouTube. You do what YouTube says sometimes, you know, and you can like cutting your hair, color your hair. You know, it's a lot of, you know, but I think you have to know when you can take those decisions, if it's good for you or not.
Yes, ma'am, and we have another one in the chat that it says sometimes teachers, they might not suggest what you want your child to do.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
We have another answer on the chat, and it says sometimes teachers, they might not suggest what you want your child to do.
Yes, because they really don't know, you know, what's going on. And yeah. Do you want to add something, Ms. Chevelle?
Well, I'll just kind of explain what I meant by some of those items in the chat. And, you know, we have conversations with our children at home and we try to influence their decisions. But then sometimes at school, they're hearing from other perspectives and it might not align with what you've been grooming your child to do and how to think. So just being aware of that too.
Yes, that's true. Well, there's so many factors around them that we just have to keep an eye and see what they're doing, how they're acting, you know. And like I said, communication is the key.
Y como ya habíamos mencionado antes, una de las cosas es la comunicación es la clave.
So this is some of the decisions that can be made and how other people can be influenced to your child, like peer pressure. We see a picture here, like he offered him a drink and he don't want. And I have seen that a lot, especially in party, like they drinking and they pushing them to drink because they want to feel, you know, they fit in that group of friends. They don't want to feel weird. They want to be accepted.
Por ejemplo, también tenemos otra que es la presión de grupo, donde podemos ver en una imagen, en esta imagen, donde se le ofrece al niño o al joven una bebida y pues esas influencias están presentes y especialmente cuando no tienen a nadie alrededor, los niños se sienten presionados y está la toma de decisiones presente.
The second one is acceptance. Like we see this little girl right there watching some of their kids playing. We don't know what's going on. Maybe she wasn't agree how to play and they just kick her out of the group. And she wants to be accepted. So maybe she would think, and I said, well, I have to accept the rules for the game so I can be able to play in that game. Either she's not agree with it.
Como por ejemplo en esta imagen, la aceptación, vemos la niña que quizás se salió del grupo porque quizás tuvo un desacuerdo con sus compañeros, pero que por la misma aceptación que está queriendo recibir, quizás aunque esté en desacuerdo con las reglas o con la manera de que el juego se está llevando a cabo, quizás acceda por buscar esa aceptación con sus compañeros.
And we have the other one. It's really popular, social media, what we were talking about, social media. It could be a lot of, influence in them too.
Y la próxima es las redes sociales. Las redes sociales tienen mucha influencia y son muy populares entre nuestros niños y juegan un papel muy importante en la toma de decisiones también y la influencia que tienen en nuestros niños.
And school too. We see a group of friends, the same story as the other girl, acceptance. And I think the hardest thing is in high school, they doing friends, they want to be accepted, and sometimes agree with things that they don't like.
Y otra es en la escuela y especialmente en la high school, donde los niños están buscando esa aceptación y se sienten presionados por ser aceptados y pues se ven a veces influenciados en diferentes maneras y por ser aceptados a veces acceden a ciertas cosas.
And that's when they get in trouble, start problems.
Y ahí es cuando comienzan los problemas.
The other one is boyfriend and girlfriend influence. Here, then you have to have a lot of communication with your child, especially when they're start having like in high school, boyfriend, girlfriend, they can be easy influence.
Y otra también es la influencia ya cuando los niños entran a la edad, que comienzan a tener novio o novia, hay que tener una línea de comunicación muy abierta para que nuestros niños tomen la decisión más adecuada.
And the other one is parent family pressure. How can we identify this? What kind of pressure we can put in our children as a parent? I can say, for example, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Rano.
La próxima es la presión de los padres y la familia. Quizás a veces no lo realicemos, pero también los niños reciben presiones de los padres y la familia. ¿Cómo podemos identificar esas influencias y esas presiones que los niños reciben?
Maybe keep telling them, do your homework, go to bed early, and we put in pressure. I want good grades and put in pressure. But that's a good influence. I mean, you're the parent. You have to tell them what is wrong and what they have to do. I mean, even though they know, they don't do it sometimes. So that's when the pressure comes.
Otra de las presiones también es cuando constantemente nosotros como padres les recalcamos a los niños de la importancia de realizar las tareas, de ser responsables con tareas del hogar también. Quizás son presiones que son necesarias, pero que a veces ellos sienten la presión de parte de nosotros como padres, pero que son necesarias y quizás es hasta cierto punto son buenas, pero tenemos que reevaluarlos cómo también las manejamos y las hacemos con nuestros niños.
The next one is the teacher pressure. Get your homework, get your grades, why you haven't turned the assignments, that kind of pressure to be responsible.
Y la próxima es la presión de los profesores. Cuando los profesores están constantemente en los estudiantes, en los niños, diciéndoles que sean responsables, que entreguen sus tareas a tiempos, que haya constancia en todo lo que hacen, ellos también sienten ese tipo de presión de parte de los profesores.
Well, these ones are some of the samples that we have for influence, the kids' pressure, It's life, and that's why we have to keep an eye on our children.
Es varios de los ejemplos de cómo los niños tienen diferentes presiones y que es necesario que nosotros reevaluemos para que nosotros sepamos a lo que los niños se exponen, pero que de igual manera ellos tienen que comprender y entender que es parte de la vida también.
Thank you, Ms. Arano. So sometimes, often sometimes our thought process helps kids, children in taking the right choices.
¿Qué es la toma de decisión responsable?
Oftentimes, thought process help guide children in making the right choices.
A menudo, un proceso de pensamiento ayuda a guiar a los niños a la toma de decisiones correctas.
So, what are some aspects of responsible decision making?
¿Y cuáles son algunos de esos aspectos de la toma de decisiones responsables?
So, so let's hear what PBS Think TV social emotional experts have to say, and it's three tips that you can, take note.
Ahora en este momento vamos a escuchar de parte de los expertos socioemocionales de Think TV y de PBS qué tienen que decir al respecto y cómo comparten esta información con nosotros. Mientras escucha, también puede tomar notas al respecto. Son 3 consejos que le ayudarán a usted para, para esa toma de decisiones de sus niños. Vamos a continuación.
Every child will face innumerable decisions throughout their lives. Understand ethical implications and evaluate consequences. Their decisions will affect their own well-being and that of others.
I think for responsible decision making, what we're really talking about here is teaching kids to think through all the parts of a problem and really understand it in a deeper way so that they're not making impulsive decisions, that they're thinking about if I make this decision, what are the consequences of that decision? So we're actually trying to think through a few steps ahead. How will other people react to my decision to do X? That's actually involving your social awareness and your relationship skills as you're thinking through your responsible decision making.
When you're thinking about responsible decision making, we have to think too as adults, how much do we help kids make decisions? We have a lot of kids in college and young adults, anxiety and depression's through the roof, and I think there's a lot of kids that turn into adults that aren't sure how to make a decision on their own. So the idea as teachers and parents of supporting our kids in decision making and also letting them deal with natural consequences of their decisions when we know it's not going to hurt them, of course. And again, it's case by case and it depends on age, but it's really important to think about us as scaffolding them, but we want them to be able to eventually make independent decisions that hopefully are the right ones for them.
Having conversations after they make their choice, why did you choose that? What could you have done differently? Was that the best choice? And really allowing them to construct their understanding or verbalize the way that they made that selection. Sometimes it may be because it was enticing or because they thought it would be fun or they thought it would have a certain outcome. And that may really give us some insight on how do we present choices? What choices can we present that in the end really gives us what we're looking for? Because choice allows growth and opportunity.
As we think about discipline or consequences, really having our young people think through what happened, why did I do what I did, how did that make others feel, and then what's appropriate for me to do now, both in terms of having a consequence, but also to repair the damage. So if a young child is in trouble for being disruptive in the classroom, we could just give them a timeout, or we could actually help them understand why is that actually a problem? What is the teacher's experience like when she's trying to teach a lesson and you keep on being disruptive? How would you feel if you were trying to communicate to a group of 25 kids, but one student kept doing that? And what can we do to let that teacher know that we understand how she must feel and that we're sorry about that? They're much more likely to really reflect on that and not do it again and to apologize appropriately than had they just been sent out or lost recess or just excluded from instruction as a timeout. So it's really important for discipline that we give kids opportunities to analyze the situation, to reflect on the different perspectives, and to repair that damage so that they're more likely to internalize the lessons that can be learned from these conflicts and not simply just repeat it again or just get angry.
Wow, that was a really good video. You know, different perspective. You see things, question why you're making that decision instead of getting mad or putting them in timeout. What do you think, Ms. Serrano?
Yes, this is a pretty good video to reflect on it, on how teachers can manage when you see a student that is keeps doing the same, making the same decision over and over, and how you can have that conversation with that student, what is making them making that decision. Because sometimes they want to be here, sometimes it could be something going on with them, and they just have need somebody to be um, to talk to about something that might be going on with
Yes,
them.
that's true. And also, like you teaching them how to, you know, of course, make the right decision and think about why you want to make decision. And that's something that it will impact your child's future decision as they get older. Because that's really important, you know, make decisions instead of asking so many people what you think, what should I do. So that's a really great video.
Yes, it is. En este video que tuvimos a continuación. Es un video muy importante, muy bueno, que nos le da la oportunidad a que más que los maestros o los padres restrinjan a los niños de ciertas actividades, ciertas cosas que pueden hacer, es tener esta conversación con el niño de por qué están llevando a esa toma de decisión, para que entonces los niños puedan tomar una mejor decisión en una próxima ocasión.
Yes, thank you. And so also let's consider the STAR decision making model. This is how can I help your child make decisions? This is the STAR method, and it shows the kids how they can take, like stop, think, analyze, act, and reflect.
En este modelo que vamos a mostrar a continuación, nos va a enseñar diferentes maneras de cómo los niños pueden lograr a tener una buena toma de decisión. ¿Cómo puedo ayudar a mi hijo a tomar una buena decisión? Tiene diferentes partes que vamos a compartir con usted a continuación.
So like that said, this is the STAR method. They use it a lot in schools. So first, stop, stay calm in mind and body. Can get help you make a decision so they get time to stop and relax.
Este es un modelo que se usa con frecuencia en la escuela. Es un pensamiento que ayuda a guiar a la toma de decisiones correctas a los niños. El primero es detenerse y mantener la calma en mente y cuerpo puede ayudarlo a tomar buenas decisiones, así que tómese el tiempo para detenerse y relajarse.
Second one is think. Think about the factors that influence your decision and understand the problem you face.
Y el próximo es piense. Piense en los factores que influyen en su decisión y comprenda el problema que enfrenta.
Act. Make a decision based on your options and possible consequences. Act on your decision.
El próximo es actuar. Toma una decisión basada en sus opciones y posibles consecuencias. Actúe según su decisión.
Second one is review, reflect. Learn from your decision whether it's right or not. Reflect on how it impacts your life.
Y el próximo sería reflexionar. Reflexionar y aprender de su decisión si fue correcta o no. Reflexione cómo afectó su vida esta toma de decisión.
So this is some tips to help our children develop good decisions. making skills.
Estos son consejos de cómo ayudar a los niños en el desarrollo de las buenas de tomar una buena decisión y la habilidad de tomar una buena decisión.
So some of the tips and we already go through, like listen to them, communication, don't judge right away why they doing that, what they taking that decision. All that, it can influence a lot to be, like I said, they will help when they grow up so they can make good decisions.
Muchos de estos tips ya los cubrimos durante nuestra presentación, es mantener esa comunicación abierta, hacerlos a ellos pensar y reflexionar que los llevó a tomar esa decisión para que los niños pues tengan esa habilidad de tomar decisiones que le ayudará en el resto de su vida.
So let's reflect, go with some questions, think about it every time you are in a situation with your kid that you think he's not doing the right decision. Always think about this workshop. What can I do to help them,
Ahora vamos a reflexionar sobre el aprendizaje. Vamos a reflexionar de qué manera puedo yo ayudar a mi hijo cuando está tomando decisiones. De qué manera, pues recuérdese de esta información provista en este taller, de qué manera puedo ayudarlo a él para que entonces mi niño pueda tomar unas mejores decisiones en un futuro. So, tener esto presente, ¿cómo podemos reflexionar de lo que aprendió y recibió en el día de hoy?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Rano. And so not only we can make positive choices in our decisions, but we also can make positive choices financially. I have a financial resource here with me. I want to introduce a special guest. He is Marcos Camacho, and he's the Financial Center Manager at Bank of America in East Dallas, and he will give us a good information about financial tips and making good decisions, how we can influence in our child financially. Mr. Camacho? I'm sorry, Ms. Serrano, and then you.
Y no tan solo enseñarles a nuestros niños a cómo tomar decisiones para la vida, sino también cómo tomar decisiones financieras que nos ayudarán también en la vida de otras maneras. So, aquí vamos a presentar y a dejar a continuación a nuestro invitado especial, el señor Marcos Camacho, que nos va a compartir muy buena información de cómo mantener esa toma de decisiones también en el área financiera. Bienvenido, señor Camacho.
Thank you, Sylvia and Lonka. So let's talk about making positive choices as we're talking in this presentation. So some of the choices that we can help our children make are we help them set up a budget, talk to them about the importance of saving. So now this conversation is going to be different for every child depending on what it is that they're saving for. Some of the choices you can make as a parent is to give them a large sum of allowance, maybe once a month or once every few weeks, instead of giving them a few dollars like we usually do here and there, so that they can learn how to save, how to make those choices of how to set up a budget. Now, with Bank of America, we have personal financial education with Better Money Habits by Bank of America. This is on our website. These are personal videos that you have access to. These are videos that can help you have a conversation with your children about how to set up a budget and how to save. Ms. Serrano?
Yes, so Mr. Camacho, I have a question. So when they open a bank account, what age do they can open a bank account?
So with Bank of America, they can open a bank account at any age as long as their parent is on the account with them. They can open a checking account, and that way they can learn how to make deposits, how to make a withdrawal. They can, you as a parent can help them keep up with that budget and their balance. And they can do it at any age at this point.
Do they have overdraft fees?
No, so with our Bank of America Advantage State Balance Banking, There is no overdraft fees for the children. So this account does not allow them to overdraft. So there is no overdraft fees. This account is actually free for them. It waives the fee of
Oh, okay.
$4.95 until the age of 24.
Oh, okay. Great. So they would have access in their mobile phone and everything to see their bank information and their budget and
So for the mobile, they won't have access until they're 16. So up until that, and up until that point, you as a parent will be the one that helps them monitor their account, their expenses, and how they're using that account. So as I was talking, like give them an allowance instead of, sometimes we give them a few dollars here and there when they need something. Give them, like I said, allowance every few weeks or once a month. That's a choice you can make as a parent, and that way they know that if you deposit that into their account, you talk to them how much they can spend. If you give them $25, let's talk about this. You can spend $10 on whatever you need, and we're going to say 15, because we have our kids have goals as well, like we do. Their
yeah.
goals are different. It could be, to purchase a video game because of the environment we're in right now. A lot of our kids are having to, play with their friends through video games, and that's how they encounter, that's how they engage. So saving for that video game or a new console is something that you can help them, and that way you can teach them the importance of setting up a budget.
So let me ask you this question because I'm a really bad saver and I was getting in trouble for that. And of course, I'm not kind of encouraging my son to save money.
Uh-huh.
What is the really good tip as a parent how you can model for your children how to save money?
So
I
go ahead.
go ahead.
So a budget is a very good example. We all have budgets. I mean, whether it be for your mortgage or for your rent or your bills, we have to set a budget for our households. So that's a great example to model for them, especially when they're trying to save up. Like we said, it could be a bicycle, a new game console. Um, but teaching them, this is how I set up the budget when we have to pay the bills. This is how I set up the budget to pay our mortgage, and in turn teach them how to do the same thing with their expenses, what they plan for, because they also have that little goal, or it could be, like I said, and it's different for every child. It's going to be different for every family.
Yes. So you think as a kid, doing goals, like you said, buying a PlayStation, it's a really great way to start teaching them how to save money. Because sometimes what happens is they have $20, but they want this game for $60, right? And they think that it's taking too long to save up that money, and they just want to waste it away. So they just waste all the money, and they don't get the game, and they're not saving for the purpose. So I think it's a really good way to start, teaching them in a big, like, long term, how to save money for something big,
I
right?
absolutely agree. Yes. And as I mentioned, so like if parents don't know how to have that conversation about a budget, we have those videos with Bank of America, Better Money Habits, and it's about making choices, making better choices when it comes to your finances. There's available to anyone at home. If you just go to bankofamerica.com and on the search you put Better Money Habits, it will show you the videos, and it depends on what conversation you want to have with your children. It will teach you that. For instance, right now for kids in elementary, it's going to be about budgeting. But as you mentioned earlier, going into high school is going to be credit. Buying their first car. And we have a video that will teach you about that. It will give you some pointers, some examples how to have that conversation with your children about how to prepare for that first car. Because as I remember when I was 16, I wanted my first car.
And also, I think when you're in high school, they start offering you like credit cards. And that's when you start getting in debt, like, because it's easy, you don't have a stable job because you're in school, or when you are going to college, that's when the credit cards start popping, and like you don't have a stable job, you have credit cards, and you don't have money, and it's easy just to go and swipe the card every time for lunch, for gas, for whatever. And what is a really good advice for high school, I mean, students when that when that time comes?
So that's a very good question, Sylvia. And credit is very important, and especially at that young age. So the most important thing is teaching them how to manage credit and understand that credit is not bad, um, and you just have to learn how to manage it. Because as they grow older with that first car, they're eventually going to want a new car, because we usually get a used car,
Yeah.
for our first
Mhm.
car, but eventually you grow, you get your first job, and you want a new car. So teaching them the importance of credit, because credit is not bad if you manage it well. And just teach them how to manage it is the most important thing. Give them the examples of how credit works, how you are evaluated when you apply for a credit card, how you evaluated when you apply for auto loan. And since you bring this up, I mean, we have a video about credit, and we have a video about the first car for
Oh,
young
okay.
adults.
Mhm.
So yes.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Serrano, do you have a question for Mr. Camacho?
Not this moment, but I will eventually get in touch with you because I do have a senior that he's saving some money to get his first car. So yes, for sure. Thank you, Mr. Camacho, for all
Oh,
these
you're very
tips.
welcome.
For all these tips, they're very helpful.
Well,
Thank
thank you.
you.
It was my pleasure being on the presentation with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Ms. Almobert, do you have a question or?
No, I don't. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Camacho, for joining us. We appreciate your insight. I think it's important not only to make good life choices and daily decisions, but also with financial choices as well. So thank you. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
going to watch some of those videos.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Camacho. And also, since you were our invite, we having a how we did. What do you think about this presentation? If you want to scan, or I can send you the link. It's a survey just to tell us how we did. What do you think about this presentation? Because I know you are around schools doing this kind of community resource. So we want to think, we want to see how we did, what we need to improve since you've seen another presentations too. So we will really appreciate it. Thank you. And I will
Absolutely.
get I will pass your phone number. So, because we having some workshops of math literacy financially. So maybe you can, use you as a community resource.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. This is my information. Like I said, Family Engagement Liaison, and this is my email and my phone number. Any questions, any concerns, you want to share something, you can always email me or call me. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye. Thank you, Ms. Serrano.
You're very welcome, Ms. Perez.